All right, good evening, everyone. I will call the meeting to order at 6:01. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First order of business, approval of the agenda. I'd like to move the resignations out of the consent agenda. We can just place that to right after the consent agenda. Any other changes to the agenda? A motion would be in order.
Eric, we were asked a question at community engagement in regards to like holding an open house, and the committee wasn't sure how to handle that and felt like the full board should decide. Is there a place where we could discuss that tonight, or maybe next month is a better time?
Daddy.
We could do that under new business, but I'm not sure if, when you mean open house, you mean open house for the full board?
So actually it wasn't clear. It was a suggestion like for 4, 5, 6 to visit Wells and Middletown. Like I guess my understanding was for them to see the schools. It came from Meredith, and then Matt and I discussed it. So kind of the discussion would be just to get a better understanding and see if the board felt that's something that we should discuss and try to plan.
Yeah, I think when I was thinking about it, it was more about having other schools all come to either Wells or Middletown, whether it's West Rutland, Rutland High School, Mill River, Pulteney, Granville, Long Trail.
Okay, well, we can add it on a new business for discussion if you like.
Okay, that works for me.
Yeah, we still need a motion to approve the agenda with those changes.
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by Matt. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Public comment. Does anyone here tonight wish to speak? Mary Beth, go ahead.
Hey guys, I have a couple things, but I'll keep it short. My first question is just to Chris. I reached out to Lisa Madison earlier in this week, and I know it's super busy. You guys are, in the long stretch of the last week, but there was communication made to me that that the superintendent's office had decided to just start communicating with parents just through social media. I'm wondering if that's just something that kind of came about and was through the telephone of parent to parent was kind of skewed, or if you guys had talked about communication through that lens at all.
So, Mary Beth, I'm just trying to understand. So you're saying that someone said that I made a decision that I will only communicate through social media?
No, it was more of like, the school districts as a whole. They were just going to communicate through parents, since they thought it was a more effective way through Facebook and other, avenues that you guys explore like that. So that's obviously not true.
No, so I think as part of our strategic plan, we are looking at, communication is one of our priority areas. And what we're looking at is how we can best reach all of our families or stakeholders. We're exploring multiple ways of doing that, whether it be through traditional newsletters, just memos or emails that I sent out, or letters, or if it would be via a GRCSU Facebook page where it would just be for informational purposes only. There'd not be a place to comment. We are looking at a lot of different ways, but that would be part of an SU-wide communication plan, but there's been no formal decision made, but that's part of, like I said, part of that strategic plan is just looking at ways we can more effectively communicate with all of our stakeholders.
Okay, great. And just, I have, just one more comment. So I was a part of the few parents and staff and kids last week. We're going over the school-wide plan meeting. And one of the things that kind of came to my attention that I was a little concerned about is that when Mr. Beal did kind of like a polling of how people are feeling in the school, some of the 3rd to 6th graders, and this is a quote, identified that student behavior was impeding teachers being able to provide quality instruction for all students. And so we also kind of brainstormed about how we could mitigate those behaviors. And I reached out to Tim, I forget his last name, I'm having a mom moment, but he's the Newark principal, and he created a morning movement for his entire school. And it involves 1 hour each morning for like big body movement to kind of get that hey, how are you? Those juices flowing and stuff like that. So I just kind of wanted to bring that to the table that, we did all participate in that school-wide planning meeting, and maybe that's something that we can discuss on a later date, maybe ways to approach those concerns that we see in Middletown as far as behaviors impeding students' learning, and then, just the overall just kind of plan to move forward next year. So that's all I wanted to say. So we could even put that on the agenda maybe next time, Eric, for like just to maybe look into like a morning movement program. And then hopefully I hear back from Tim, the principal at Newark, who kind of put this whole program together, and it's been really successful. And he had a lot of, he's been doing presentations on it and stuff like that. But obviously you guys are busy across the board with the last week. So if we could maybe touch back on that. Hopefully I'll have more information next meeting. Yeah. And then if you had anything on the outdoor classroom, I wish I had popped on from 5:15 to 6 so I could update FFE, but I didn't get a chance to. So again, even if you wanted to move that to a later date about the update for the classroom, I just knew that you had the facilities committee right before this. So. All right, that's it. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? All right. There'll be another opportunity tonight if you choose to. All right, so we'll move on to consent agenda. We have in the consent agenda the minutes and warrants, and also contract recommendations. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
All right. Motion by Amanda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, resignations. So we have 2 resignations.
We approved the minutes already?
Yeah, the minutes were in the consent agenda.
There is a spelling mistake for Michael Reedy. It's for the under public comment. I believe he's also the architect who did the design for the outdoor classroom.
Okay,
Beaty.
yes. All right, and you want that name corrected?
Yeah, it's mentioned somewhere else in there too.
All right. All right. All right.
Sorry.
That's all right. I take it there'd be no objection to that correction. I mean, typos and stuff like that shouldn't be an issue.
I know, I just wanted to get it corrected since it's a
Okay.
important player in that program.
Yeah. All right. So resignations, we have Cynthia Woodruff and Rick Beal. I think, I moved it out of the consent agenda, mainly just so we can, discuss, briefly, I guess, Rick's resignation. I guess it's one of those resignations that, don't want to accept, but, you know, and I would say that, the school and the community is definitely losing, a huge piece. So, you know, with that being said, you know, be looking for a motion to accept both resignations tonight, with regret, obviously.
So you have to make that motion with regret.
Motion by George. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. And then, as far as, the hiring committee goes, we'll be looking at, bringing on school board members, similarly to when we, did the interviews for, Wells Village last year, community members. So I would say that if someone is interested, to reach out to myself and Superintendent Sell. Amanda?
I just noticed in Rick's resignation, it's June 30th, and that's only 2 weeks from now. Do we have somebody already interested in that position and we're mostly looking for the other position, or not so much because that's 2 weeks away?
Yes, we're aware of the timing, Amanda. We have, this position has been posted. Our goal is to begin the interview process next week. As Eric had said, that we will be, you know, reach out to board members, administrators. We have some staff members who already volunteered to be a part of this committee. And like Eric had said, if there are any Middletown Springs parents who would like to be a part of this process, please reach out to myself or Derek right away. We have had a few. This will not be a large committee, but we want to make sure we have equal representation of all stakeholders. And we do believe that within 2 weeks' time, we should have a recommendation in place. So with Rick leaving on the 30th, we also have plans. I know that Carol, myself, and Lisa Madison and Bill Basic have all talked about a transition plan put in place. But if we need to call a special meeting to appoint someone prior to our July meeting, then we can also look to do that as well. So we're not asking to around timeline. We also did not want to move quickly because we understand that it's a critical hire. We do, looking at our candidates, we do have some good candidates who have applied, and I think we'll have some good discussions around the future for Middletown Springs.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question. I wasn't sure if people had already applied, so great, thank you.
Matt?
Yeah, hi. Given the small window and the big shoes for the next candidate to fill, could Rick come on as like almost like a consultant, if needed, in terms of like later on if we decide to fill this, you know, not in the next 2 weeks, but if it takes us a bit, could we? I don't know. I don't know if Rick's open to that or Rick Sue's open to that.
I have to go and check my wife about that one. I say jokingly, but we are heading to Montana on July 1st. We're gone.
Okay.
So
And I feel confident that Chris has got a team to make that transfer.
yeah, so Matt, I understand your concern. I think understand what our summer needs are and where we're at. I think, you know, that's something which we can, if we find ourselves in a situation where that we have a candidate, we don't have a candidate we're satisfied with, I think we may cross that bridge. But I think in looking at the candidates and looking at the systems and sports that we have in place right now, I'm not that concerned about the transition right now. I think this is a good time. I know Rick and I had a conversation prior to he made his announcements. Rick understood that, it's never really an ideal timing for someone who's been here for a long time and had a huge impact on, the school and the community to leave. I think Rick would have not stepped aside if he knew that this would in any way, I guess put the kids, put the kids at a disadvantage. So I think, and so we have we have a couple plans in place. We have plan A, plan B. Our goal would be to find ideal candidates, and I think we have a good pool for that. But I think at the end of that, I think that's where the hiring committee would, discuss and talk about. But ultimately, like I said, we'll be bringing a recommendation to the board.
All right, any other discussion? All right. Oh yeah, Matt, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to clarify. So I'm not suggesting that Rick would step in as an intermediary, but like come school starting, let's say maybe the current principal could use a couple of hours of Rick's input on how to run a specific thing or where something's located in a stack of files or things of that nature. So I'm not saying like having Rick being like full time, but just maybe an hour or two here or there towards the start of the school year.
So Matt, I think that, thanks for clarifying. That does make sense. I think I also have to take a look at Rick's schedule. Traditionally, we're looking at administrator hirings probably like in, March or April at the latest, and you do have that transition period before the end of the year, which the new administrator might work with, an outgoing administrator, for looking at systems or just some data, things along those lines. So I think that'd be something which we just touch base with Rick about over the course of summer, if you'd be willing to come in for a couple of days or a couple hours. I think it's be hard, to be honest, to peel Rick away. I think but I think that, yes, that will be part of that plan, that it wouldn't just be at the 30th, we just sever all ties with Rick, but ultimately we also be respectful of Rick's decision to resign too. And so if for one reason, if he was not able to do that willing, I think we'd have to look at how do we provide the support to the next administrator. So but that's a great idea, Matt. Thanks.
So I would gladly come in or communicate. I mean, there's documents I'm going to be sharing. So I feel whatever happens, whoever gets position, I would gladly have conversations, share all the information I have about. And, so no, I feel that the school's going to be in a really good position. So, but no, just when it's June 30th, I'm not going to wash my hands, walk away. But I will be sharing. But I think it's good also for me to step away and let the new principal have that room to grow. So.
Does that help, Matt? Okay, cool.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Superintendent's report.
Thanks, Eric. I'll be pretty quick here. A lot of this is for informational purposes. There are a few things I just wanted to highlight. Well, I'll start with the legislative reports. We do have a veto session coming up next week, June 20th. As a result of that, we've now received much information about the impact of some of these bills and what it'll have on schools or budgets. Our goal, or what talking with Jeff Francis, the executive director of the Vermont Superintendent Association, he anticipates having a legislative report ready to go by our July board meeting. And at that time, Lewis and I and administrators will be prepared to discuss the impacts of these pieces of legislation on processes, policies, finances, things along those lines. So, we expect to have a further discussion with that in July. So I know we have a board retreat, but we can also discuss that as part of that too. And then I know that a lot of people have asked about PCB sampling. You do notice that Middletown Springs and Wells are at the tail end of the sampling window. Middletown Springs is not till October 2024. So we have some time. And then Wells is not till July of 2025. So we have some time with that as well. And so we're okay there. I do want to know, Eric had discussed this. I also would like to publicly just say thank you to Rick. Rick is going to be sorely missed. Rick has been a fixture, not just in the community of Middletown Springs and in the school, but also with the admin team. And I know the past 5 years I've worked very closely with Rick and a variety of things. And I just want to say thank you. I miss him personally and professionally. And when I met with him a couple weeks ago, I did say to Rick, that one thing I like about him is he has his priorities in order. And I think at this particular time, he's prioritizing his family. And I think that's the most important thing. But we'll miss him. And I know he'll miss, the kids and town of Middletown Springs. But and I'm sure he'll probably be popping around because it's obvious. But I just want to publicly just say thanks to Rick for all that he does and will do. So thank you, Rick.
Appreciate it.
And last, just end of the year items. We do have a summer retreat coming up with the admins, which, we'll kind of keep posted on what was covered at that time, and, if there's any impact. And the last thing I had was at the GRCSU board meeting, which was, it was just last week. It's been a long 2 weeks. The strategic plan was approved by our SU board. The Wellspring board members should have a copy of that in the shared drive that you have access to. What we'll be doing this summer is, and we've already done a lot of work with this. So at the SU board meeting, the board approved our 3 priority areas, the goals and the strategic initiatives, which you'll see. We are meeting with Patel for Kids, which is the company that's, kind of worked with us, organized, oversaw the portrait of graduate and the strategic planning. And they are going to be producing a nice professional document to probably be 10 to 20 pages, which really encapsulate what this is all about. And our goal will be to roll this out to the public in probably August. We've thought about July, but July is never a good time to share things with families and parents just because, vacations and it gets lost in the shuffle. So we looked at back to the school. So remember, we did the portrait of graduate. We'll be, releasing that information so people could take a look at, what our goal is, what our visions are, what some of these initiatives are going to be. There's a lot in there. I think it's a big aspect. It is a 5-year plan. I think that some of the items that some of the parents tonight have talked about, and in the past, you'll find that they've worked their way into the strategic plan. So I think it's something which allows schools to be responsive while still moving our SU forward. So I think it's a very good plan. I think it's an ambitious plan, but I don't think we want anything less than that. So if there are any questions, I'll be more happy to answer.
No questions? Okay. Principals reports.
I'll go first, my last report. So, good evening, everybody. I really want to share the great work that we've done this year. I think social emotional has been a big thing with the WARE grant. And I'm glad that Mary Beth brought up about the committee meeting on the continuous improvement plan and our SIP goals. And so as a committee, we look at data, and one of the data is the school climate survey. And one of it was students' perception of behavior. And I want to say that there's a scale, and the scale was not that bad, but there was a drop from the COVID era and to where we were at the beginning of this year. So that has really guided the work of working through the WARE grant. We've had Up for Learning. We've had our older students look at the data and have great conversations. We have the students break into 3 different groups. One was looking at celebrating the good things that are happening. We had a great fair this spring that was put on by a group of 4th and 5th graders that organized it. They developed all the games and everything. We had a committee look at restorative practices and looking at the form where the kids reflect on their behavior. And the third thing, which I really have to share today, is our last all-school cauldron when we had kids come together in their mixed grade level groups. We had 3 students from that Up to Learning group that gave a presentation about mindfulness, learning, and then did activities with the groups. And so the students have taken ownership for leadership, and I feel so good about leaving what has been started by the teachers and where the students are. So I think we're in a really good place about students recognizing impact of their behavior, and I think see things heading in a great direction for the start of the next school year. And I give great kudos to the classroom teachers and for the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students who have really stepped up the leadership roles. And I think it goes back to the portrait of the learners. We want students to be involved. And so I'm very proud of that, and really happy to share that. But we can always do better. So I think that goes to the continuous improvement plan and the things we can look at, as Mary Beth said, about activities, movements that all kind of add together to help that student, help meet the student's needs. Also, just talk about social emotional. We've been very lucky through the WARE grant to have an opportunity to fund some outdoor activities through the Green Mountain Rock Climbing. We're able to do some indoor session, outdoor sessions with girls and boys separately, doing it different days for the older students. And just to see the kids come together, support each other, risk taking. I don't care if they climb up 5 feet, if that's where how high they can get. But for them to take that risk and the students supporting each other, that's going to carry over to the classroom. So that strong social emotional is going to lead to academic success for the students. So I think that has been a big thing that we've worked on as a school this year. And I think we're in a really good place. And I look forward to hearing things next year. So quickly, we had a great trip to 6th grade to Boston. We went to Plymouth Plantation. We had an overnight stay on the campground. We had a great Indigenous learning session at Mayflower, and then the Boston Harvard Museums. It was a great academic experience for the kids, and they were great students to take on a trip. So yeah, so pass it up to you.
That's it. Okay. Do you need any questions that one?
No, you can go ahead.
I can go ahead. Okay.
We'll save questions for after.
All right. Okay. No, first of all, I want to say I haven't known Rick for just this year. He and I actually were in our work together at Castleton. So I've known him a long time, and I'm really excited for you to start this journey. And I wish you the best in retirement. I've appreciated your support and guidance this year. Just a couple of things about here. I hope you noticed the playground is installed and it's wonderful. The kids are enjoying it. We did do a ribbon cutting ceremony with our pre-K and 6th grade being out there to support them. We did have had several end of year events. We did a field day, a lake day. We did do our 5th and 6th grade trip. We went for kind of a jaunt around Vermont, which was really wonderful and very much enjoyed. But I think one of the things that was standout was having our spring concert, and it brought standing room only into this room, and the students were just loving being able to perform and have family here to see them. And I have to give special thanks to Carol Cutler, the new music teacher, because she really developed a lot of great opportunities, especially with musical instruments for our students. And they're very excited about it. And I think just having the opportunity with the spring concert is kind of opening doors for other students looking and seeing what they can do. And lastly, we will be doing, we're having graduation Friday evening, and there will be 11 graduates. And just looking forward, 4 of those students will be attending Granville in the fall, 4 are going to Poultney, 2 are going to Long Trail, and 1 is going to be attending Lehigh. So that's about it.
Questions for either principal? Amanda?
I think we missed the rest of the consent agenda, Eric. We did
What's that?
resignations, but we didn't approve the warrants or the minutes or the contract recommendations.
That's all part of the consent agenda.
Oh, okay.
So we just approved the whole consent agenda as it is, and if there was something that you wanted to discuss or something needed changes, then we would move it out of the consent agenda. It's just kind of designed as like a time saver to speed the meeting along, so we're not making a motion for minutes, making a motion for warrants, making a motion for contracts, you know what I mean? So,
Works for me. Perfect. Thank you.
I had a question. Oh, it said you finished, testing with Cognia and stuff. So did you guys work out the bugs and all the issues with the VT cap and all the,
We hope.
Yeah, it was a struggle, that's for sure. I think
Oh, yeah.
our teachers deserve a lot of credit for how they kind of just kept persevering, and hopefully it will be different next year. It'll be a different experience. It was brand new and there were a lot of kinks that needed to be worked out, but everyone finished, so.
well, kudos to you guys. That sounds like a lot of work. And headache. All right. So no other questions? All right. Okay. All right, so we'll move on to finance. We have the monthly financials in here. For informational. And we have the tax anticipation notice. We do this every year. This is basically while the district waits for money from the state, we have to borrow in order to pay bills. We do this every year. I think that pretty much sums it up. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we'd be looking for a motion to approve the tax anticipation notice tonight.
I'll make that motion.
Any discussion on this? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right.
I just need to know when you need that signed by.
I don't know when we need it signed by, but,
I have to sign the paperwork, so I just have Louis or whoever, so I can
Yeah.
get in. Thank you.
oh, yeah, yeah. Great. Okay, all right, so teacher appreciation. So, everyone should have received my email, about the, teacher appreciation and the issues revolving around the gift cards. Basically, we'd probably look for a motion to amend a previous motion, to basically, strike out, our motion to include the gift cards. And then, I don't know if anyone wants to talk about anything else regarding, teacher appreciation, but, I think that would be an appropriate action. Any questions about this? Matt?
Yeah, so just to level set, like, are we not getting the teachers anything, teachers and staff anything this year? That's okay. We could maybe
Well,
use, go ahead.
That's up to the board, I
Okay.
guess. But I think the gift card, is, the gift card idea is,
Didn't seem practical. Didn't seem like after we got into it, like logistic, like just the whole thing didn't seem practical. So I get it. Okay.
yeah, I was just gonna find the language I sent out because I don't have it memorized, but, It was a while ago.
I'm good to make that motion to strike.
All right. Motion by Matt. And I can find the exact language here. It was to strike out and to approve the gift cards in the amount of $15. So that would amend that previous motion. Any other discussion on this? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. And I mean, it's unfortunate. It's so far past teacher appreciation. The letters were sent out, but as far as a gift idea, I think it's kind of past that time, but it's not, that's just my thought. I mean, if the board wants to still do something, that option still remains.
Do it like a back to school breakfast or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, is there enough time to do a breakfast or a lunch for them, for the teachers? Too late? No, I mean, for days.
Yeah,
I think the idea would be to do something at the beginning of
Maybe,
school.
yeah.
back to school is what was suggested.
I think that'd be nice then.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. What would be a good time to do something like that? Like the week before school starts or the week school starts? I don't know.
I actually think during in-service, I think there'll be time where staff, the
Right.
first or second day, we could work with Carol and the new administrator around timing. I think that would be probably the best time. Carol, would you agree to?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, the in-service is like the week before school starts, right? It's like
Correct, yes.
2 days or 3 days.
Yes.
Can't remember.
And are we thinking more of like a breakfast or have some food brought in or?
Yeah, like a breakfast.
Maybe order pizzas or something if they're here for the day or what
Yeah.
are we thinking?
Well, it was suggested like a breakfast, something to do, probably first thing in the morning. And I think doing it with that in-service time is a really good idea because there's no students in the building.
Is that those days programmed yet? I mean, you usually do like a Greater Rutland County part. You also do a Wells Village part. Do you do a separate Middletown and Wells part?
I would say the second day would probably be best because typically the first day is a lot of SU wide,
Right.
checking the boxes. The second day will be more building based. And so like. the
So
staff
in
packet-
each
Right.
building.
So, yeah.
Be nice to do like a continental, like muffins and or pastry thing with coffees.
So one in each building at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, that kind of
Well, you're not gonna be there, are you?
beware.
Are you going to the breakfast?
Why wouldn't I?
It's for them.
Eric's not gonna pass up the free breakfast.
Oh, I see. So we're just buying them breakfast. We're not gonna.
No, well, that's up to the board. I mean, as to how it works.
Sorry. Yeah, I was thinking along the lines of like like a collaboration type thing, but I guess that might be too much. So
Do have time to plan it.
yeah.
Do you know the teachers on the call are probably not excited to hear us talk about next year already when bypass the summer.
Yeah.
That's why we're offering food.
Hey, that's what I was just gonna say.
Not Eric. We don't want to offer Eric.
No.
We want them to enjoy it.
All right, fine. I'll stay home.
So do we need a motion that will provide breakfast the first day that they are in building? In their respective buildings?
Yeah, for like during in-service,
Yeah.
back to school in-service. Yeah, I think that would be appropriate.
Make that motion.
Okay.
Is this being ordered from like a local bakery or a Dunkin' thing, or are we making these pastries together as people? Where is this coming from?
Yeah. I think that's something that,
The Wells Village store could be contacted.
yeah. I think that's something that can be figured out between now and then.
In CrossFit. Great.
Yeah, that's not going to compare. To Wells.
One or the other.
Yeah.
Or both, yeah. Oh, it'll be good from here. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Wells Village store.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking that, having someone cater it would be more appropriate. To say that, oh yeah, I'm gonna bake or go to the store. I'll most likely forget that,
Corey's also probably somebody who we've used before, we could consider. We've done a lot of teacher appreciations with her. Corey Moon, or Best rather, Best Moon Catering.
okay, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Motion carries. All right. We'll move on to policies. So we have, let's see, D4, D10, D11, F2, F7, H5, E10, and E11. Those went to the supervisory union board last week, and those were all approved. I will just note that E10 and E11 are brand new model policies that stem from a recent legislative um, uh,
Recently passed legislation.
passed. Yeah, I'm trying to think, it was like S-138 or something like that. So because of that, these have to be adopted by August 1st. And so that's why, but I just, I think some of this stuff are already being done in schools. Emergency fire and emergency preparedness drills. But yeah. So
The only main difference is that we will be providing 24-hour notice to families before a school security drill is performed. We are getting clarification if that includes fire drills as well, but really it's around the like an active shooter or a lockdown drill that families and staff would know 24 hours ahead of time. So that's it. In addition to the 2 options-based drills per year. But I do want to say that all of our SU schools have options-based responses already in place. So it will not be a shift for us. So.
all right. Any questions or concerns on those policies?
The school safety portion where we have to sign people in, visitors to the school. We mentioned that might apply to the people working on the outdoor classroom. Could that also apply to volunteers and work study personnel?
So we do have a separate policy around volunteers and unsupervised volunteers. And so anyone who, the access control is not to limit access, just to understand who's in the building. So
Just to
therefore,
keep a record of.
correct. So if someone is here, like I say, working as part of a work crew, I think we have to look at the length of time, you know, if they're there for like, 20 minutes to work on something, you just have to sign in and go through the basic process. So we have a procedure in place for that. But if someone is going to be here for an extended period of time, say if they're 2 or 3 days doing work, then we would look at like a supervised volunteer, in which there may be a background check applied for that individual, particularly be around our kids. So.
And I think the access control also ensures that, doors aren't are being left unlocked and that they're secure. I think that kind of covers, like intruder threats. That's the way I interpret it. Okay.
I did notice on F7, you say the Great Rutland County Supervisory Union.
Oh,
I believe was the greater. It's the first line there.
okay. Good catch. All right. Yeah. All right. So we would need a motion to warn these for adoption then, with that correction. Obviously, it's just a typo.
I'll make that motion.
Sounds like
Motion.
fun at her house.
What's that?
It sounds like fun at her house. It's
Motion by Cara to warn D4, D10, D11, F2, F7, H5, E10, and E11 for adoption. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All right, motion carries. All right.
Good.
Eric, just a point of clarification. What date in August do we have to have those approved by?
August 1st.
Is that going to work out given that our July meeting is our retreat and we won't be meeting again until after August 1st?
There's potential where we could have a
Like
board,
a special.
yeah, just like a retreat / meeting, or the other option would just be to have a special meeting. Yeah, I know.
I don't care. I just wanted to make sure I heard the date as August 1st, not August 31st, because that changes how we
Yep.
do it.
August 1st. Fantastic. Okay. All right, F50. So we've been looking at this one for a little while. I think that, and I think I said this at the last meeting, under implementation, letter E, the amount of spots limited by the board. I think that deserves some discussion. If that's something the board wants to do, if so, how many spots? And is that going to be a permanent amount or is that going to fluctuate from year to year? I think those are things that need to be considered in this policy. I kind of think that it doesn't need to be in there because it also says that it's determined by class size and space and availability. But
Is this in there because the makeup of one class from year to year could be very different? The amount of children with special needs, things like that.
yeah, well, I think the other part of it too is there's potential to have a lot of families or students move. And then it could adversely affect one classroom in another school versus, so to limit spots, but, I mean, we're such a small community, is that even necessary? No. And I don't know.
Well, I'm not saying we should determine the number, by the board, but if there were a special situation, have our professional staff come to us and say, maybe it should be 5 this year because of the makeup of the class that's there.
Okay. So maybe say the amount of spots may be limited by the board.
I would
Just leave it as
I would
is.
defer to Chris and the principals on that. They know more about, the needs of the children. They can certainly share some of that information, but not all of it.
Right.
So I would depend on them to make that call.
Yeah, I think the building administrator, superintendent.
So I would word it so that they make that decision, but be clear that it may not be the same year to year. It may not be. For good reason.
I mean, I interpreted that line as that it gives us the option to set a limit if we wanted to, but not necessarily that we have to at this time establish a limit. Like, I think it gives us options, not a must. But maybe I'm reading it wrong.
I mean, could we say it would be a joint decision?
I don't think
We
it
would
should
certainly-
be.
Certainly follow your recommendations,
You don't think it should be what?
I don't think we should be deciding that.
not by ourselves.
The amount of spots limited by the board. That's not our job. That's a school administration job.
Okay. So you think it should be removed completely?
I would support that.
All right.
Can
Uh,
one from public
John.
ask a question right now?
We'll have another public comment at the end of the meeting. Okay. All right. So yeah, I mean, that makes sense. If I would say, other districts and other schools have this language in there, but I always kind of thought that was because maybe they were dealing with a larger population of students and different schools. And I know like high schools will also limit spots. I think, don't they do that?
So
Corey Valley.
what, high schools, this is part of statutory language, each year says what, on or before February 1st. Like Corey Valley has to set a number of spots in and spots out. And so the past couple of years, it has been 10 in, 10 out is what they've settled on, but the board makes that decision. That's statutory language that the high schools or any high school district they have to undergo that.
That's for the entire district.
That's for each school.
Oh,
So for each school, so Proctor, West Rutland, and Polden each have 10 spots built in, 10 out.
they don't have to all agree to the same amount, do they?
We do as a district, yes. So
Because
we're one of the few that have multiple high schools. So most will just have one for them.
So I just keep thinking every time Eric speaks about this being pertaining to larger systems, to me, this is more important for a smaller system like ours. The number becomes more critical
So
because the balance is swayed so easily.
if we look at, say, our 3 high schools that are, different size, the smallest of our high schools, 10 students out would have a much larger impact than our
Right.
large one. Correct. And that's something which has been considered. And I think that's each year they have an opportunity then to restrict. Let's say if we had 9 students out, if they then moved, they would not be able to sit there and say, we're gonna go down to 5 students. we would have to stay at 9.
But that's a board decision at Quarry Valley?
It's a board decision, yes. So, and there's admin inputs. I mean, so that they've asked the administrators their thoughts, and so the admins in the past couple of years have felt comfortable with those numbers being where they're at. So we've had more students wanting to come in than going out the past couple of years. So. But you're right, it is a year-to-year decision, but the admins look very closely at what their numbers are at. And
Right, yeah, just the smaller the numbers, the more critical it is.
yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Amanda, go ahead.
That's okay. I just still feel like it's not clear, and it might just be my understanding, but are we saying that they need to apply every year? So like if we have a kiddo in 4th grade now that lives in Wells that goes to Middletown, they then apply again to attend 5th grade, or once they're in until they decide to come out?
Once they're in, they're in. Like, once you apply,
It doesn't change.
yeah, it doesn't change. You would actually have to apply to go back to your resident town.
Okay.
And, you know, Amanda, the exception at the high school level is if a student is academically not progressing towards graduation, or if there's behavioral issue, then a school could decide that's, you know, they're no longer going to move forward with that child and they have to go back to their home school or home district. So that's the only.
Right. Well, I was kind of wondering that with this too, like, especially given the other conversation, like, is it beneficial to ask them to reapply every year? Because what if there is an issue and then they're there? Like, I don't know. I'm fine with it the way it is. That was something that I hadn't thought of until now.
Amanda, just for sake of conversation, at the high school level, once a student receives a school choice, they have that school choice for the remainder of their time. So they don't have to reapply each year.
Yeah, and I think even when we first started working on this, that language was in there.
Yeah, it's not in here anymore though.
It is.
It is? Okay, because I remember reading it and now I'm like,
It's under 5. It says you can reapply for your local.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, because it makes sense. If you're going to apply to go to one of the other schools, you intend to have your student continue on that school for whatever reason. And
No, I think number 7 was what I was looking for actually, which is what Chris was just speaking to.
yeah, and I think number 7 might kind of cover what you're referring to, Amanda.
Yes, thank you.
So maybe leaving E in there allows the possibility of limiting spots if needed with, working with administration, as opposed to.
Or maybe we say potentially limited by, and then that way, if there's a need for a further discussion, then it's in there that there's potential that the board may limit.
You already have class size being determined by the G14 policy. It's just, not only is it not a board decision, in my opinion, it's already built in to the policy on optimum class size. I think it's redundant too.
Is there anything in G14 about class makeup?
No, I think the only concern that I think we may potentially have is, let's say if there are, let's say 7 4th graders at, let's say there's 10 4th graders at Middletown and there are 7 at Wells. If all 7 go to Middletown, we have 17, which we're still below our policy G14. But then we look at that we don't have a 4th grade at Wells, and that could very well happen. It's depending on the year. So that's the only concern. I think that when I talked with Carol and Rick in the past about that was just the impact in terms of staffing and then
So that's why it's so important that it's an administrative decision.
Agreed.
I just feel like as a board decision, it's just wrong.
Can I ask you guys, if we took section 1E out, do you need anything else in there to help make the decision on class size? Or the number of available spots?
So.
You don't think so? Then if the principals are comfortable with it, just take E out.
Or change limited to approved.
Yeah, I feel much better about approved than, approved by the referral of the administration, building administration or superintendent.
Right. If we just replace the word limited with approved, then I think that covers all of this.
Approved by the board, spots approved by the board.
Because you're also saying that consideration is a class size balance, C. And again, that's a building administrator issue. I just, foresee people with agendas on the board that might not be realistic in the future.
Well, or parents coming to us and say, well,
Yeah.
you guys arbitrarily changed the number. Why? We want it to be transparent.
And if we say approved, then the admin and everybody would be presenting to us their opinions. And if we feel that there's a reason to not approve after hearing from the admin, then that's where we would step in and say, okay, this is a good idea or this isn't a good idea. But to make the decision without hearing from the admin, I think is controversial. So I just think if we change limited to approved, it allows for that conversation and allows for that decision, but doesn't say it's necessarily required.
Okay, I mean, I'm fine with approved. I think it kind of covers that. I noticed on the application part, it says, please note, only a limited number of school choice slots are available each year. So that would have to be, I mean, based off our discussion, it probably makes sense to take out that whole line, like that whole.
Well, you mean just the first sentence? I mean, I think, for one thing, if you're going to say it, it should be, say, available any year, implying that it would be different any year. I think each year makes it sound like you're going to have 5 spaces available every year.
Oh, yeah.
And certainly the second sentence describes the situation well.
Oh, that makes sense. Any year?
Where are you changing it to any? Sorry.
It's on page 1 of the application and the first sentence under please note. Not sure, it just doesn't sound like each year makes it it's more definitive, and we really need it to be pretty open. Because we have families that move in, 2 weeks before school starts, and, there's just, a lot of, well, this is due when? March? Is that when this application is?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I think that bold, only a limited number of school choice slots are available each year. I'd be fine with just that being removed and then just having every school has a different number of slots depending on the size and school limits established.
Yeah.
I think that would suffice and cover the rest of the policy.
I mean, just so I'm clear on the scope of this kind of problem we're talking about, how many students applied for school choice this year?
None.
Yeah, okay. Just clarify.
But how many applied last year?
One. How many?
Yeah, well, we had a couple that switched in between, so it goes to the point of having clarity because of what was happening. I don't want to go into details too much, but there was a need to
Some stuff happened the year before this one.
make a change.
Yeah.
So I think clarity for the next principal, or for both schools, just very clear on when to have an application in.
Amanda?
The only other thing that I noticed is with the signatures, it says signature of current principal. So if this is somebody that moved in here but isn't attending Wells or Middletown, then it's technically not their current principal. Should it say of hometown principal instead, or residing town principal or something like that? Or does that not matter as much?
But if you're coming from somewhere else,
Right,
Well-
because like if they move here from Connecticut and they haven't picked either, they move to Middletown, decides to go to Wells, technically the Connecticut principal is their current principal, not Middletown's.
right? But
It doesn't matter to me, but I don't know if the wording matters.
So you're saying someone who's from Connecticut,
to hear and choose.
that would be residency, that wouldn't be school choice. That's, that would,
No, but let's say they're moving to
Oh, okay.
Middletown
Okay, got it.
and choose to go to Wells.
all right, thank you.
So
Right.
you would want the Middletown principal to be signing that
Yeah, you would still need the principal from the town.
from your town.
Yeah, from
So
your
maybe
town.
residing principal or hometown principal, or maybe it doesn't matter at all and current is fine. I'm just thinking about a student that may not be enrolled in Wells or Middletown and want to choose the opposite school. They technically don't have a current principal in that situation.
Yeah, it's a valid point. But I think if that person moved to Wells, then this would be their current school, for example. And then if they're like, well, I go to Rutland every day, I want to transfer to Middletown Springs, I can drop my kid off there, whatever.
So Amanda, what they would have to do is they would have to register at their home school first. So if someone moved from Connecticut, they still would have to go through the registration process at Wells. And so
Well,
if it's for like a day, Carol would be that, the current principal would not be an out of state because they still technically would have to enroll one of our schools in order to have access to this policy.
you could also just require both principals in this, because that's what you're asking, right? Both signatures are supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So just name the Middletown principal and the Wells principal.
Oh, yeah, or just put Wells Village School Principal and Middletown Springs Elementary School Principal.
That
Okay.
takes out it's less policy language, but it's our policy, so.
Okay. No, I mean, it's good clarification. I'm glad Amanda brought it up.
Yeah, I think it would make it clearer for families too. And it also makes sure that it's brought to light to both principals so that the decision being made is.
Exactly, yeah, so that there's, yeah. Okay, so I've got, let's see, under, implementation 1E, the amount of spots approved by the board to be changed. And I didn't hear anyone else, but on the application, page 1, I suggested just having every school has a different number of slots depending on the size of school, and limits established in congruence with Vermont law. Just basically striking out the first part. I don't know if everyone's in favor of that, but, and then of course on the last page, for the signatures, it would be Wells Village School in Middletown Springs. If there's no objection to that, a motion would be in order to warn this for adoption at our next meeting.
I'll make
I'll make that motion.
Amanda beat me.
Okay. All right, motion by Amanda. Any other discussion on this? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Wow. 6 months?
What's that?
6 months?
I know. Well, there was a time where it wasn't on the agenda for during budget, so,
Oh, okay.
but, I'm glad you're keeping track of it. All right, there's no executive session.
Sorry, can we go back to new business just for a second?
Did we miss something?
Wait,
Community engagement.
Oh, yes, we did. I'm so sorry. All right, so we'll skip back up to, so the open house, you wanted to talk about the open house discussion from community engagement.
Yeah, Meredith, do you mind if I put you on the spot a bit and have you kind of explain your thoughts and what your request was, and then
Yeah, well, it's more of a discussion, in that it's not always clear to all our families what, choice is for our 7th through 12th. And, in the past, many different things have happened, from students leaving on their own to visit other schools coming and giving presentations in the different buildings, to nothing happening in COVID and everybody thinking they had no idea where they were going. So this idea of having an open house or an open forum where information on what choice is involved for, you could go back as far as 4th grade, I think. You could go 4th through 6th, or at least 5th and 6th graders, and invite other schools to come and talk about their schools. And that would be a broader way of introducing students and their families to what choice is. Obviously, we would do more than just present the other schools, but talk about what having choices, public choice, out-of-state choice, independence.
and then so this would be like high schools or
Middle schools.
or middle schools. Do you think that would be something that happens during the school day so that students are actually there, or in the evening where parents would have to bring them back, and then from there they would decide potentially what school they'd like to visit for a day when they do their visit? Is that, I'm not against the idea, I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, no, it really, we're just starting there. I don't know, as I said, it's come in all forms in the past, including none. But I think it would benefit all our area schools. And I think the most important part is imparting to families what their choice is. And not just the actual schools, but what being a choice student means in our area. And whether it's during the day or at night, I don't know. To me, it's the missing piece, because choice for 6th graders is a really tough thing. And it gets, and every family deals with it differently. It gets wrapped up in a lot of emotion sometimes. And I feel like this we don't do anything really for our families to support them to understand what choice is.
Matt?
Yeah, I'll just say I love this idea, and I think in terms of logistics, it'd be more convenient, obviously, if all the schools came to present, and potentially if we grouped Wells and Middletown, so we could just do it on one night, one facility. But I think it's an awesome idea as long as we get, the buy-in from the other schools and participation from the other schools. I think it's awesome. I fully
Yeah,
support it.
The idea definitely of bringing both the Wells and Middletown, it's another way of bringing the schools together, the communities together too, because sure, Wells has had choice, but it's been different than I think Middletown's view of choice. And now, just like I said, another facet of commingling the communities.
So are you thinking this is something that would happen like during the school day, or is this something for
I don't know
for
if it's a
families
day or
that
a
like
night.
maybe the community engagement would put on?
That's kind of why I mentioned it to Matt in the first place through community engagement. I thought that they should talk about it and see if it was even something,
I'm just trying to clarify if this is
a
something
board-
we're putting on to the administration and or if this is something that from a board standpoint that we're, in relation to community engagement that.
Well,
taking
it's
on.
mixed because I feel like it's important that the board make it clear to communities what choice is, because that's what we have, that's in our articles of agreement. That's, sort of our bailiwick. And, but on the other hand, could be an FFE thing or a PTA thing in combination. I don't feel like it's a school administration thing.
Isn't this a school counselor thing? Is this not like the definition of the wheelhouse of a school guidance counselor kind of?
Do we have an active guidance counselor situation for sixth graders, fifth graders? For what happens? Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry. I'm
No.
not running this meeting.
So as someone who, I've done this before back in New Jersey, and I think it is a great idea for families. I would say that an evening activity it's much better than during the day. I think you would find that the area's schools would be more than willing to participate, in this event. And I think you could have I said alternate each year, but I have, like a guest speaker talk about school choice, what that means, the application process. And then whether you have schools either set up tables around and people can go and visit and pick up applications, talk to them, go through this. I would suggest having this in November or earlier before winter break, because then people can, have conversations and that, most schools are really looking, most people should have decisions made by springtime about where they look to go at. But, like I said, I think it is a great idea. And whether, community engagement, the board, whoever, puts it on, I think it's an important evening for parents. And I think you're right there. I think these are very difficult decisions. And, I think we should be, more transparent with the process as well as the options. And, there's also about financial aid and, that's another whole discussion. We have financial night in our high schools for parents, discussing, but, it's the same sort of thing, like with, some of the private schools, you may have to apply for financial aid. What does that look like? Like I said, as someone who's actively participated in this, organized this, it's a great event. And I think it's a great idea for this board.
I think
to put together.
it's an easier way for the area schools to deal with it too. And maybe it is just the start of their conversation with that family. But it's, as opposed, we have sent I don't know, you must have sent kids on a bus or taken them to Mill River. I feel like somebody, sixth grade teachers have done that before.
Usually it's 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it has been done in some fashion and different, I think Long Trail came to Middletown Springs about 15 years ago for one evening, but to have all the different schools there, even with all that said, even if only all we did was give parents the opportunity to further understand what the choice option is and what it also maybe means to their kids' emotional, like how, especially in light of social media, these kids start making their decisions and they're pulled apart back and forth, and it is, it's a stressful thing.
Yeah.
It should be supported somehow.
I know, we know Wells will send kids to, Granville and Pulteney, but when it comes to the private schools, they don't. Families have to do that on their own. So, like Long Trail and in some cases like BBA, that might be a great opportunity, like as you say. Do you think this is something that we could task the community engagement committee with, like organizing and planning maybe events at each school, or just one event?
I think one event, and they should just go back and forth, because that'll give more camaraderie and more community engagement.
Yeah.
Parents also talking with each other.
Yeah, like, basically essentially forcing parents to go from Wells to Middletown and Middletown. So.
Yeah, and it's not,
You're not forced, then you're invited.
you're inviting them in positive language,
Sorry.
inviting them to engage and share about their wonderful experiences at each individual schools.
Just a question, did Mill River send a bus to pick up students, or did we have to get it ourselves?
No, we just drove over.
Oh, okay.
Usually the class is just 2 carloads or something.
I wonder if the schools would send something. I don't know.
I have
We'd
a
to
feeling
talk to
that that schools do this normally. They give them pens and stickers and pins and things like that. And
I mean, as far as arranging a visit to the school.
oh, well, that's why I said this is just this is like a great entry point for them to connect with West Rutland and say, wow, I really gave this super girls basketball team. I want to be involved.
Amanda?
George, are you asking more about like the day when they officially visit a school that they choose to visit?
Yeah, I mean, if they were interested, would we be helping them
Yeah.
set up
No.
this in any way?
I think what happens right now is like they reach out to the school and they pick a buddy. Maybe they know somebody that goes to that school, maybe they don't, and then they shadow that person for the day. So they go to school with that student.
Yeah,
whether
I'm
that
not
be
sure.
ride the bus with them or get dropped off with them. That's what my daughter did in both cases. She went to Long
Okay.
Trail and she went to Pulteney, and that was arranged by Long Trail and then arranged by Pulteney. So I would assume that's kind of the same.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if they're coming in to do a presentation, then they would provide the parents with information on how to set up a visit. So that's fine. I'm fine with that.
And again, it's really, I think, in our duty as a board to make sure our community families understand what their options are.
I'm not opposed to trying to put something together with community engagement if you guys feel it's best that the committee work on it and then bring back kind of what we put together to the whole board. If that's what you decide, but I also don't mind doing it as a whole board either. Just whatever you think is best.
Well, as people feel, we can put it on an agenda. We can put it on our August agenda as a board, or the community engagement committee can work on it. I'm fine with either. I mean, my first thought was it would take some some planning and some reaching out. And,
Oh, yeah.
And again, like I said earlier, and obviously collaborate with the principals, but I think, my first thought is this something we're going to do or task on to,
So
administrators? But
Eric, I think this is where Cara had suggested, I mean, this is where our school counselor should be coordinating with the receiving school counselors. So they should be reaching out to Mill River, to, you know, one of our Corey Valley schools, or, you know, to Long Trail. That's where the school counselor would make that connection and say, you know, we're looking to have this open house, you know, on this evening. We'd love to have your, you know, someone come and attend this meeting, you know. But that's where the school counselor makes that connection. It wouldn't necessarily be, you know, our building administrators or anyone else. It would be that school counselor as part of, you know, their transition plan and look at what's next for our kids. So. And they should be making those connections regardless.
But it just doesn't always. And,
Right.
and I kind of do feel that it shouldn't be just the sixth grade. I think introducing it to the fifth and sixth grade might be a better way, just because if we have this in November and they're making their decisions, you know, the more information you have, better you can make a decision. So if you only have a month of that information, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It also would be more people, be more enticing for the schools that are coming here.
Yep.
They had a, you know, nice little crowd of 20 or 30 kids
Oh, wow.
instead of, well, fifth and sixth graders. Yeah. You put them together for two schools. That's about it, right? 20.
Close. Yeah, my first thought when you brought it up and started talking about it, my thought was like a community forum or something like that. But I think what you're talking about is more informal.
I was envisioning a school fair, like a college fair, but for fifth and sixth graders and their families. Like they have tables around the room. Like you invite everybody, and everybody that wants to come, they get a table. They set up their swag. They have a representative who can talk to families. It's a open house, open style. If they want to come, great. We'll give them a table, kind of.
And maybe our table or the community engagement table is like, you know, here's something on what choice actually involves, and here are the different things you need to consider.
It all sounds good.
Now volunteer to host the first one here if you want to. That gets you a connection that it started.
Yep.
That's great.
All right. So,
Is the advantage of using the community engagement committee that we might have more input from families that are interested in this topic?
I
Or
think so. I mean, that, and also, you might have more ideas for it too.
Yeah.
Maybe combine it with other events or other community engagement.
I mean,
ideas.
Amanda has reached out to PTO and Matt's reached out to FFE already. And maybe this would be something they could also offer. Amanda and Matt?
I think it would be best to put it on our July agenda, have a deeper conversation, see what we come up with, and bring it to this board's August agenda. I don't think we can barely make any decisions now, but I think it's something that we should talk about absolutely and start looking into.
But what I was referring to was getting input from those two bodies, FFE and PTO.
Oh, sure, I don't mind asking. Yeah.
What they would like to see, what their questions might be, things like that. And maybe we should consider setting up a meeting with them. But we can talk about that at our next meeting.
All right. So we'll do that. Amanda, I'll talk to you about the community engagement and the agenda, and then we'll kind of put it back into community engagement to have some additional conversations, and then we'll go from there. Does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
One other thing, we decided to change the date of our meetings for some a logistical reason. We're doing the highlights of full board minutes And having our meeting the same week as this meeting, if we get them reviewed by you and they're okay to go, the only place we're gonna have them published would be Front Porch Forum, and that would be right before this meeting. So we thought by going to the fourth Monday of the month, that would give us at least a week and a half, 2 weeks to get that done and get it out there in some papers and published electronically. So our next meeting then would be July 24th.
Okay. All right. If that's what you guys decided, fine. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think at our last meeting that we had the samples of the abridged minutes, correct? You're referring to the abridged
Right,
minutes?
yeah, highlights.
Or highlights, I shouldn't say abridged. The highlighted minutes, but that was just a sample for the board. I don't necessarily think all the highlighted minutes need to come to us for approval
But
because,
it was sent to you for review.
oh, just me?
Yes.
Okay, I thought it was sent to everyone. I thought it was just being sent to me. I thought, see, my understanding was that, you know, we saw the abridged minutes, this is
Right.
what they're gonna look like, and then approved it. And then, you know, you guys can do your abridged minutes in that. I don't know why I keep saying abridged. You get what I'm saying?
So we're not doing it the right procedure, or?
I don't know, someone,
I thought the
correct me if I'm wrong, you know,
Have the
because
full board have to approve this.
everyone's recollections might be different, and I might have it wrong. I thought that in order to, you know, save the hassle of having to have them approved by the board, the board saw the, highlighted minutes and said, these look good and they can be posted.
Yeah.
Because they're just highlights. They're not,
An example, yeah.
yeah, it was an example and so that they don't have to come to the full board every time.
Because it comes,
They still need to go to you though to send to Front Porch Forum because you have that access and we don't.
Yes, yep.
and I think by not having it come before the board makes it a little more clear that it's really not an official board motion. It really is just highlights. So we have minutes and we have highlights, and so.
But again, having those go out like we did for the next meeting, we thought might be.
Sure.
But it might not be as advantageous as having a little more time. So that's what we decided to do.
Okay, yeah, I mean, whatever, schedule works for the committee, you know. That's
And,
fine.
and maybe at the board retreat, we could kind of discuss this some more, like what, setting up this, open house,
Maybe,
if there's time.
yeah, the retreat will probably be pretty structured, so, it really just, depends if we're doing any additional business that night. But, let's see, the retreat's early in July though, so,
The 12th.
yeah, so. But, okay, all right, yeah, so anything else? All right, so we'll do that, we'll pass it on to community engagement. All right, so there's no executive session. Public comment. Heather, I see your hand up. Do you have any public comment tonight?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I have several comments. So, speaking from personal experience, if there is a dispute within a school, within the district, what is the protocol for having the principal sign and approve the change of school that a student might be going to? I just want to publicly state that I attended the community engagement meetings for about a year, and I saw no actual action. And so I have stopped attending those. Also, I think it should be highlighted that in the last 2 years, 2 principals in our district of 2 schools have departed. I express endless gratitude to Rick Beal, who's, selflessly given to the students for 12 years. He deserves all the applause in the room. And then I think, I just want to go back to what Meredith was saying about school choice and making sure that parents are informed. So I think that since we're utilizing websites predominantly for communicating with the public as well as social media, which I don't totally agree with, I think that sharing information about the school choice process is important, to be just like like another link that you share on the website. Like if you're concerned or you have questions, this is the document you open up. If you have more questions, this is who you reach out to get those questions answered. Because certainly we want to keep kids in our school districts, but we also want to make sure that everyone has as much information as possible. And that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Tammy?
Hello, everybody. Just a couple of things I want to just update you on. Our parking lot project for the MWA, I don't know if anybody's told you, it's scheduled right now to be July 24th to the 29th. And that's at a cost of about $22,000 it's going to cost us to fix this, just FYI.
How much again?
22,000. I'm hoping they're hoping to do some additional sloping so that maybe the water won't pool in that really bad area that we're having, in hopes that will help it down the line as well. That will be Cody doing that. Cody Martell and Wells. His goal is to get it done before bingo on that Thursday, so. The tennis court project, we have gotten a quote of $55,000 to get that up to where it needs to be, and to also put in the pickleball lines and all that. So since the Woodman doesn't have $55,000 right now in their back pocket, we're doing some fundraising, trying to raise that money right now. We're going to be doing an all-night bingo, which I'm so looking forward to help raise funds toward that project. I know the soonest that would be done is the fall, that they could get us on the schedule anyways. So we're praying that maybe we can get enough donations maybe to help us to have that project done. And then on the Town of Wells side, I did email Chris, but just in case you guys weren't told, the Town of Wells just contracted with a new lawyer since we weren't getting any answers or any response from our old one. So now we're going to be going through Merrill Bent for any issues or dealings that we need to deal with, as far as if the school has anything that they need from the Town of Wells, that should be reaching out to Merrill Bent at this point. I do believe there's some documents that are on that we've been waiting for transfer of naming, because your property is still under Wells School, and not Wells Springs. I don't ever recall seeing a signed document on both sides that was sent to the town of Wells. When the whole vote happened, it became Wells Springs. If you guys have that, I would send it to the town clerk in Wells. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the update. Mary Beth?
Hey guys, I'll try to keep this short. Hey Chris, did our parents able to get that strategic plan for the supervisory union? Are we able to have access to that, or are we just gonna wait for that August report to come out?
Right now, it's not for public consumption. We will be cleaning it up and probably posting it, I'd say, the next couple weeks. So we'll send that out or we'll have it on our websites.
Okay, great. And then Mr. Beal, do you know if we're eligible for the Aware grant for the 23-24 school year? I just think of like a lot of like the outdoor classroom stuff we got going on, even the morning movement. But I wasn't sure.
So that's a great question. At this point, we've applied for a summer into September extension. It's nothing new. It's just continuation of what we've already started. Some things, mindfulness, restorative practices. I don't think the state is applying for the 6th year. That's the latest.
Okay, so do you know when we might find out if Middletown Springs / Wells has any access to those funding?
I spoke with the coordinator of the person that kind of like oversees it, and right now we're just waiting for the supply from the states. So I don't know.
Okay, great. And I just have one more thing. I'm glad you guys kind of hammered out school choice as far as student slots. I have 2 kids. Caroline is in kindergarten. She has 10 students right now. Christopher's in 1st grade. He has 10. And I know that the 2nd grade currently has about around that same number of students. So Rick was kind of tasked with the hard decision of whether we're going forward and combining or continuing to combine those 2nd and 3rd grade classrooms to have about 2021. And I think when I read the policy, our optimal students are about 18, maybe our max is 22. So I just, I had to go do some dinner stuff. So I'm glad you guys kind of hammered that out. I'd like to see what comes of this meeting, just because I know those numbers are increasing, as the years go by. When we first came to Middletown, we had smaller classrooms. Those seem to be getting larger. And then, just going forward with combined classrooms, we're going to have bigger class sizes. And then that toes the line of, if students want to go to either school, how that decision is made. So, so I'm glad you guys got through that today. So that's it. Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mary Beth. Oh, Heather? Did you raise your hand again, or is it still up?
I did, but at this point, I've forgotten why.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been a long year.
I hear you. All right, thank you everyone for your comments. All right, so we'll move on to our future meeting dates and agenda items. Our next meeting is a retreat. I don't think it's aware right now if we're gonna need to have a short business meeting before that at all. But I'll let everyone know if we do. And then any future agenda items, and that kind of brings me to just putting agenda items on the agenda. Again, I'll just reiterate, email me or Chris. Chris put our policy on agenda in his superintendent's report as well. So that way, these items can be properly warned too on the agenda. So let's see, retreat.
The time for the retreat?
Yes, it would be our regular board time. And it would be like, just like 2 hours. So like I said, it'd be kind of scheduled, similar to how we've had a retreat before with Kathy. And if we do need to do board business, I guess that's a good point. We would either need to have that earlier or after the retreat. So
I would suggest you have, beginning, like you call to order, approve agenda, public comment, because we have to have public comment.
I know.
And then I would have a very shortened, like if emergency only board work, like we have to approve a policy or something else, but I think I would reserve this time for board work.
All right. Well, what I was getting at is like either way, we're going to need time to do it. So either start a little bit earlier or end a little bit later. So if we still start at 6, we could be there until like 8:30-ish. Whereas if we started at 5:30, I don't know. I think maybe I'm just overthinking it. So
Could we do a half-hour meeting at 6 and then have the retreat at 6:30?
yeah, we can. I'm just making everyone aware that if we were to have business, we would extend it.
I'd rather do that than have a whole nother night.
I agree.
Yeah.
And had long meetings before. All right. All right, so if there's nothing else, a motion to adjourn would be in order. 7:48.
I'll make that motion.
By Cara. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Night, everyone.
Aye. Thank you.